Shades of Joe Kim Noah there. Who goes to Cleveland? No one goes to Cleveland on vacation. They're going to be vacationing possibly after this one if they can get the job done in Beantown. Clay, baptized by the waters of the Bay, a new perspective on this series, and it always comes to a head in Game 6. Here's a look at Splash Class Period 6. Clay, a real sense for the moment. We'll see if that's the case on Thursday night. All right, let's break it down with our guy, CBS NBA insider Bill Reiter in studio, and joining us from TD Garden, our NBA champ, the coach, Avery Johnson. Coach, I want to go your way first here. Legitimate sample size when we talk about Game 6 Clay. Thompson struggled with his shot early in the series, but has since broken out and really crescendoing to this moment. Great expectation out in front of him. What makes Clay so great in these closeout Game 6 situations?
Well, I think it's been because some of the guys that he's played with in the past and currently playing with. You look at some of those Game 6s and, you have a guy like Steph Curry on the floor. He draws a lot of attention. Or you have a guy like Kevin Durant on the floor. He draws a lot of attention. And Clay, before, obviously, that was before his two injuries that kept him out the last 2 years. He was a lot healthier. I think he's a lot healthier coming into this game tonight. He's been able to find his rhythm. Now he knows basically how they're going to play him. Because Steph Curry had 43 points in Game 4, he's going to get a significant amount of attention tonight. That's going to leave guys like Draymond Green open. And if the defense shifts to him, then that'll leave some kick-out passes for Clay. Boston turns the ball over, and if they continue to turn it over, Clay will get out in transition, make some transition threes. So you can see that little smirk on his face. I think this is a primetime night for Klay Thompson to have another one of his Game 6 breakout performances.
Here's a look at some of that history that Clay has had such a big hand in, just sport fishing, catch and release, Bill Reiter. When you take a look at Clay, Coach said it there, getting back in rhythm, not just getting in rhythm, but finding the bottom. I mean, a couple of those threes in Game 5 were classic Clay, nothing but twine type stuff. How big are those first couple shots that he's going to put up in this one?
Yeah, you said it. It's nice if you're a Warriors fan or if you're a media member. I promise all the media members are ready for this series and all those folks that are in Boston to see him get into rhythm and start to look like his old self in Game 5. I think it's going to matter to a degree early on, but Clay's a streak shooter, and he's a guy who is going to keep firing and keep shooting if he starts 0 for 5 or he starts 4 for 5. And I think he said something really important that we just heard at the start of this conversation when he talked to the media and said he referenced 2016 and that experience of being up 3-1, having it, they thought a championship within grasp, and watching it go away. I think that focus, that experience, the fact that it's on the brain for Clay, that maybe he had some insights in the beautiful waters outside in the Bay in San Francisco, I think means he's going to understand that he's got to do his part. He's got to hit those shots to make sure this series doesn't go to a Game 7 and give the Celtics a chance of life. I love Clay on the over tonight. I've got him in several parlays, and I think you guys are right. He's back in rhythm, and I think it is absolutely in the cards that he does what he's always done in these situations and has a big night.
We're going to get to those player props coming up within the hour, but let's talk about some of these stars again. You stack Game 6 Clay on top of a highly motivated Steph Curry. It might be shooter's delight out there, Bill. Curry 0 of 9 in Game 5. Draymond said it in the post-game press conference. It's exactly where we want him. Pissed off, heading him into a closeout scenario here. When you take a look at Steph, the game that he's coming off of, what this all means to him, not just title number 4, but potentially MVP number 1. What sort of projection do you have on Steph tonight here in this type of situation?
Massive game. He's going to channel his livid nature, the dark side of the force that Draymond talked about, and that anger is going to fuel him. We don't give, I think, Steph credit that he deserves in a general historic sense on a lot of levels, including because he's such a nice guy and such a likable guy, including the fact that when he gets angry, when he feels disrespected, when he's put out, when he's mad at himself, we've always seen him respond, including in this situation. Coming off games where he hasn't made a 3 in the postseason, he hits more than half of his 3s in the next game. That is focus, that is excellence, that is a guy hell-bent on making sure he doesn't repeat the mistakes of the game before. I think he has a massive, massive game in the Garden tonight.
In that same breath, Coach, how do you see the building affecting Steph tonight? Last time he was there, it was 43 with the shimmy. What are you expecting out of Steph?
I don't think he's going to put anybody to sleep, especially early in this game. You know, I had lunch here in Boston today, and what's some of the famous delicacies here in Boston? Clam chowder, fish and chips. If the Boston Celtics coaching staff allow Steph Curry to score 40 or more points tonight, they're going to be banned from all of the eateries in Boston this entire summer. You got to trap him. You got to get the ball out of his hands, force the ball to find guys like Draymond Green, Looney. You cannot allow Steph Curry to come out and score 14 points and set the tone in the first quarter of this game. Remember, he had 21 points in the first half of game one, 30 going into the fourth quarter. He didn't start the fourth quarter in game one, which ended up hurting the Golden State Warriors. They made those adjustments in terms of their substitution pattern. But I think Steph is going to come in under that 28 and a half tonight. I just believe the Boston Celtics are not going to allow Steph Curry to go off, and that's why I think this will be a big night for a guy like Klay Thompson and some of his teammates like Jordan Poole.
Yeah, even on that 0 of 9 shooting night in Game 5, Steph really was commanding the attention of the defense, creating opportunities there in the fourth quarter. Let's pivot to the Celtics side of the conversation here, Coach. They went from the driver's seat to the back seat and back against the wall in what feels like no time here. What's the message been over the last 48 hours to prime themselves for a much-needed back against the wall type bounce back here?
Well, they've probably been hearing the number 95. Jason Tatum, 95 turnovers in the playoffs. Fourth quarter, lackadaisical performances. He's 5 for 21 in the fourth quarters of these games in the finals. I think the message is, can your superstar player play like a superstar? And can your team take care of the basketball, ball security? I don't care if it's football or baseball or even basketball. You cannot turn the basketball over. You cannot have errors in baseball, and you can't throw interceptions in football. So you got to take care of the basketball. You want to get points in the paint. You want to put pressure on this Golden State Warriors defense. You don't want to play on your heels. But your superstar players got to play like a superstar. And other guys like Marcus Smart, he's going to need to be more of a defensive player tonight. I think he's going to have to score at a high level.
Yeah, Coach absolutely said it. Absolutely right. I think there's two things in a bounce-back game for the Celtics. The first is that Jason Tatum has got to be excellent when it matters under the pressure. That almost certainly means the fourth quarter and the entirety of the game. And Ime Udoka spoke to this to the media in as nice a way as he could, where he said we have to be consistent, which means, translation, we got to stop playing like we don't know anything about basketball in the fourth quarter. And this correlates to the other thing, and that is the Celtics offense simply has to be better. In the 3 games the Warriors have won in this series, they have held Boston to fewer than 100 points in each of those games. That Warriors defense certainly being a big part of that. But also, Boston hasn't scored a lot of points in those fourth quarters. And those things correlate. You got to be loose. You got to be confident. Tatum's got to play a huge role in that. And if you're the Boston Celtics, you have to make sure that you are scoring more points. You're besting a Warriors defense that if they hold you to fewer than 100, I think Steph's going to be great. I think Klay's going to be great. You got to score points if you're Boston if you don't want your season to end tonight.
Tatum seen on the off days holding the rock under the arm in the facility is a bit of a Friday Night Lights situation developing. So whether it's in between the ears right now or elsewhere, turnovers got to get cleaned up and they got to be better in the fourth. And we know to force the Game 7 here, Boston's trio, as you said, guys, going to have to ball out. But so often throughout this series, especially for the Celtics, it's been unlikely sources that have sort of taken over these games, whether it was Al Horford a couple weeks ago, whoever it may be. Who's the X factor tonight for you, Bill?
You just named the X factor for me. Tatum's got to be great. We know that. I think Jaylen Brown's got to contribute. We know that. Celtics defense, all those things. But Al Horford can be a difference maker. 5 times in this postseason, including this series, Al Horford has scored 20 or more points, and it's just been a huge offensive addition and taken some of the weight and some of the burden away from his young superstars, that duo. That is only 2 fewer 20-plus point games than Klay Thompson has in this postseason. Al Horford is capable of being a massive game changer, not because he's a superstar offensively, but because we've seen his ability to take some of that pressure and to fill that void. And if you're going to do it again, this is the night you have to do it.
We will see if the legs are there for the veteran Horford and the rest of the Celtics, frankly, who did look sluggish in the fourth quarter of Game 5. Coach, what about for you? Who needs to elevate tonight in Boston to book that flight back to the Bay?
I agree with my buddy Bill. It's not just because I'm missing him standing next to me in Boston, where he should be right here next to me on my left. I'm having a little Bill Reiter withdrawal, and so I'm going to agree with my buddy Bill. You know, you look at Horford, 26 points in game 1 against the Warriors, but in the last, 4 games, he's got, 30 points combined? So I think he's going to have to play at a huge level, especially in the pick and pop situations, so you can spread that defense out to give those driving lanes for guys like Tatum and Brown to drive. If he's not going to make his shots, that's going to allow one more defender to shrink the floor, create those turnover situations and deflections. So if Al Horford can make those shots, spread the floor out a lot open, give those guys more driving lanes, and to be a factor on defense. He had a big game, 30-point game against the Milwaukee Bucks, so he's capable. Big game here, game 1 in the finals. So I think Al Horford needs to go somewhere north of 18 points tonight for him to really be that true X factor.
We'll see if that is the case. What about on the Warriors side, Coach? Games 5 and Game 4, it's been Wiggins dominating the glass, really getting it done on the offensive end as well in Game 5. Who's your prime player on Golden State?
Well, I played against his dad, the glove, and his dad was really upset when he didn't play in Game 1. It's Gary Payton II. But what he does on both ends of the floor, the way he guards the perimeter, his explosiveness with his dunks around the basket. They'll play him at a small 5 or 4 position. He's not a pick and pop guy. He's a pick and roll guy. When he gets out in transition, slashes to the basket. When Steph Curry gets double teamed, he's that outlet guy in the middle of the floor, in between when they're playing 4-on-3 or 3-on-2 on the backside. He puts a lot of pressure on your defense, especially with the way he attacks the basket. He helps them with their points in the paint to really try to soften up that Celtics defense. And then defensively, he's very competitive, especially to try to slow down a guy like Derek White, who you don't really want getting his confidence going, especially in front of this home crowd.
Yeah, for me, it's Draymond Green. And I don't mean defensively, though obviously Draymond defensively is important and critical to what they do. I mean offensively. I don't need Draymond Green, because this is not what he does, to score 20 points the way I think Al Horford needs to for Boston. But Coach hit on this earlier. Steph Curry is going to demand so much attention defensively. There are going to be open shots for a number of players. And we've seen Draymond several times pass on short basket opportunities, pass on short jumpers, look tentative. For Draymond Green to be the second facilitator with the ball in his hands, and sometimes the first, depending on what's going on, he's got to be somewhat of a threat to score the basketball. 12 points, 13 points, 14 points from Draymond Green. And what I think that would mean to just open the floor even more because of all the attention that'll be on Steph Curry, I think is really important. Don't need him to be a superstar offensively, but the ability to take advantage of some of those looks and force that Celtics team to at least take them a little seriously on defense, I think it helps the whole offense.
Yeah, the perennial X factor, playing with a chip on his shoulder, set some of those struggles earlier on in this series. All right, guys, we got to put a pick to it. They got the tarp ready in the visitors' locker room, the hats and the T-shirts ready to be handed out. And if history is any indicator here, we can really throw out the numbers and just pick a winner. In the finals, when the spread is 6 or less, teams that win the game 60-0-1 against the number. C's are given 3.5, so this falls right in line with that. Bill, how's it going down in this one?
That's an astounding statistic, by the way.
You know I always got something for you.
That's amazing. I love CBS Sports. Look what we do for you. Look what we do for me. The knowledge that we're
just
dropping.
Pick the winner.
I'm going Golden State Warriors, and I have actually very little doubt about this, and I could be wrong. I think that if you want to be an NBA champion, which both these teams do, you can't squander the 2 opportunities the Celtics gave away the last 2 games when they were in the fourth quarter, especially a game where Steph doesn't hit a 3-point shot and only scores 16, and the Warriors win that. I think Steph has a huge night. I think Klay Thompson, we talked about, gets into rhythm. I think the Warriors have shown they know how to close. The Celtics have shown they don't. Golden State, confetti falling for them in enemy territory tonight.
Prior to game 1 in San Francisco, we were asked 2 questions. Who would win the NBA Finals? I picked the Warriors in 6, and I'm sticking with it. They're right on schedule. They're the team that I trust the most, especially with taking care of the basketball. They have experience. I think this is played out. They've won ugly, and they've won pretty. They've won when Steph Curry's gone off for 40-plus points. They've won when he hadn't scored a 3-point basket. Tonight, the Warriors close out this game, and my big idea coming into this series was we know if the Warriors win, Steph Curry would be the MVP. But I said, when you look at Andrew Wiggins, he was going to be the best two-way player in this series, and he would get some MVP votes. And if he plays the way he played in Game 5, he's going to come in a close second behind Steph Curry in the MVP voting tonight. But I'm going with the Warriors in 6. I'm sticking with it.
And there's no time like right now to get it done. You want to talk about experience? Bill Reiter, Avery Johnson, all night long here on HQ. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, here's a look at that matchup. 3-2 is the situation. Back against the wall for Boston. What do you got? Celtics 3-0 in elimination games this postseason. Looking to stave off that dying light and make it 4-0 in such situations. All 5 games decided by double digits in this series. Who's going to let go of the rope tonight? You'll find out right here on CBS Sports HQ. Highlights, full analysis all night long.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.